Did you go to Northern then?
I did for like a year or two.
Yeah.
And then I bummed around for a while. I actually went to UCLA for a while.
Really?
And then I came back to Michigan and went to Michigan State. But please don't tell anyone that.
Well, that's too late now because we've got it on record.
Darn it.
I actually graduated from State as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. Just with everything that's gone on there the past 5 years or 10 years or however long it's been. It's like,
Yeah. Don't want to really necessarily be affiliated with that stuff. So what got you into media? Where did that come from?
I have absolutely no talent as far as math or science or athleticism goes. But the one talent I have is being able to speak on any subject in the world literally for 30 seconds. Make it sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm going to test you.
After the 30 seconds, the facade is blown. But for 30 seconds, I can actually make it seem like I know what I'm talking about.
What do you know about the Great Barrier Reef?
You know, I'm really sad that the Great Barrier Reef is dying. I mean, that's one of the most amazing assemblages of coral and of, sea animals, sea life on the entire planet. And how much of it is bleached now? Something like 50 or 60%, something like that. And as that part of the Pacific Ocean starts to warm, it's just dying at a fantastic rate. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's not like it's going to grow again.
Yeah.
And, that's just a huge loss for the ecosystem of the area and a huge loss for humanity.
Okay. How about polar bears next?
Polar bears are so cute. I mean, they're
You're just
big,
picking the low-hanging
they're
fruit.
white,
Yeah.
they're fuzzy. But as we were just talking about the Great Barrier Reef, I mean, to see how emaciated some of them have become because of the fact that the Arctic is warming faster than any place on the planet. And all of a sudden, these bears don't have the food that they have, or they get caught on an ice floe and they don't have anything to eat. I mean, it was really nice getting caught on an ice floe if you're Rudolph and Hermie and Yukon Cornelius. But if you're a polar bear, it doesn't really work so well. So
Shout out the claymation. Is that the claymation?
No, that was more that was Rankin Bass. That was more stop motion animation.
Okay.
Claymation was like Davy and Goliath. And some other the Chicken Run cartoons.
Yukon Cornelius. Throwback. I like that. That's cool. Cool. Well, thank you, Jim, for coming in. Appreciate it. Sincerely. It's
I feel a little overdressed too.
I tried to. You said you were going to wear your tie. I tried to wear a nice shirt, but then I threw my hat on because I can't help myself. So
I'm literally coming from another TV gig, so it's like
again, appreciate you taking the time. Honestly, coming to the studio and checking things out. Cool. If you want to introduce yourself, I think if people don't already know who you are, it would be great for you to tell the folks a little bit about what you do and where you come from.
And then they would run screaming from their computer screen and never watch this podcast again.
Not at all. Nah.
No, my name is Jim. I'm a world-class geek. I work in radio. I work in TV. I really enjoy working with the Marquette Regional History Center.
Awesome.
I do tours for them. I do programs for them. I've put together 100 and some short videos for them. Done a couple of long form things too. And I think out of all my gigs, that might be one of my favorites.
How did you get introduced to that? Where did that come from? What's your history with the History Center?
What's very funny is that growing up, I had no interest in history at all. It's just one of those things you had to learn.
Yeah.
I left Marquette for a while and I came back, and probably a year or so after I came back, I made this fatal error by stopping in Jack Dio's store. And I was looking through the pictures and I saw a photograph taken of looking down Front Street from where the Peter Wright Public Library is now,
Yeah.
from like 1870, 1875, you recognize no buildings, but you recognize the topography of the hill.
Right.
So you knew exactly where you were standing.
Yeah.
And there's just something about that picture that sparked something inside me. And I kept going back. Jack became my dealer, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And ever since then, look what happened.
Yeah, amazing. So it was a connection through Jack Dio that led you on this path to your love of history, and in particular Marquette history.
In a very strange way, yeah. Because if I hadn't walked up the stairs to his old store, which is above where Donkers is now,
Yep.
I might have taken an entirely different path. I might have been an expert on the Great Barrier Reef or on polar bears instead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you did walk into the studio that day.
yeah,
because-
I'm kind of satisfied with the way it turned out. So
yeah. I think there's a lot of good things happening right now in Marquette, and in particular with the Marquette Regional History Center and all the work that they're doing and that you're doing in collaboration with them. I'm just so happy to see the history being preserved the way that it is.
And one of the things I think the people at the History Center do so well is they don't approach history like you might have in schools back in the 80s or the 90s. Back when I was in school and you were like, oh, this is so boring.
Yeah.
One of the things that they do, and one of the things that I've always definitely tried to do, is to bring it to life. And if you're able to tell stories that people can relate to, it's so much better than just having dates and names.
For sure.
I refer to myself as a historic storyteller.
Yeah.
And that kind of encapsulates everything that I try to do and everything that they try to do at the History Center as
It's amazing. Yeah. And what better way to do that than through the photos and also like your history tours,
Right.
which are insanely popular. I mean,
One of
don't
the-
even try and downplay it. Like, there's literally hundreds of people following you in the streets.
Last year, I did a tour called Happy Hour, which involved basically bar stories
Yeah.
in Marquette. And there were two very cool things about the tour. One of them was that it was entirely within Marquette's social district. And so almost everyone on the tour had something.
Sure.
And which made the tour a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I was standing on the corner of 3rd Street and Main Street by where Marquette Wallpaper and Paint is. And there was a crowd of almost 300 people going up the sidewalk. And I took a picture of it, and it's just like, are you freaking kidding me? But I think that shows how interested people in this area are about what happened before they came here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also speaks to what you've been able to cultivate, because people aren't going to follow just anyone. And when you bring that history to life, I am trying to emulate that to some extent because it's powerful. And when you have that passion for the history and people can feel that passion, and to your point also about what the Marquette Regional History Center is doing in how they're sort of trying to bring the history to life in different ways rather than just like in the classroom.
Right.
When you're in the location
You get
and
a-
those stories are
Yep.
being told,
You get a whole different perspective on it.
Yeah.
You can stand in front of a building that's now a respectable bakery, like the building that Baby Cakes is in.
Yeah.
That used to be Joe's Tavern. And Joe's Tavern is so revered in Marquette bar history for so many reasons. The guy who owned it, Joe Fine, was at one time the mayor of Marquette. The cool thing about Joe's Tavern was that it was open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. so that everyone who was drinking there had to go home to have dinner with their family.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
But
And
open at 7 a.m.?
yes,
Okay.
for railroad workers getting off the overnight shift. And the interesting thing about Joe's Tavern is that women were not allowed. There are actually two stories behind it. Okay. The first, the official story, is that because Joe Fine felt or told people that he felt that if he had women in a bar with a bunch of drunk guys, that
there'd be some bad things happening.
There'd bad things happening. I told the story of Joe's Tavern 10 or 12 years ago at a late night show that I was doing outside of the History Center, which in itself is a trip in itself. Sure. A member of his family came up to me afterwards and went, "Would you like to hear some family lore?" And of course, that immediately makes
perked
me
up
go,
a bit. Yeah.
And he goes, "It wasn't closed because of the fact that women would get in the way of drinking. Family lore has it that Joe actually couldn't stand his wife and he wanted 12 hours a day away from her."
Oh my God.
Now,
I don't know what's worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's family lore. I don't know if that was actually the case, but it's little things like that bring history to life.
I mean, that's deep. Like, okay, I got to ask you, how do you remember all the dates, all the locations, all the names? I feel like my memory is okay, but there's times when I struggle. And what do you do? Is there a trick or is it just your passion and it just is driven home?
And I think it's that point because everyone has a subject or two that they naturally gravitate to, and they will soak up that knowledge like a sponge.
Totally.
And for me, one of the things just happens to be local history, bar stories, everything from bar stories to railroad stories. Right. People can tell me these stories and it's stuck in there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Can I remember what I had for breakfast this morning? No. Yeah. But can I tell you, the 18 people who were once, had businesses in this building back in 1880? Yeah, no problem.
That's crazy. Hey. Yeah. That's pretty cool though. I feel like if I think about what I'm interested in, I think about the McCormick Tract. Mm-hmm. And the history of the Bentley Trail and all of the lore behind that. There's stories that, like you said, I can sort of just recite because I'm a sponge when I'm reading it, or if someone tells me a story, I've got it.
I mean, I wish I had that ability, or I wish I had that ability back when I was in college and, trying to get through a science class or something like that. But
yeah, cool. Well, thank you again for coming in. This is fun. We've got some repeat shots that we can put up on the screen if you want to take a look. Yes. Should we
unveil the pictures?
Should we do some photo stuff?
Unveil the pictures.
I mean, that's a cool connection that you and I actually have with Jack Dio too. And one of the things that I was trying to do originally was I wanted to, because I'm doing a history tour on Wednesdays, and I was asking Jack to see if I could use his photos to basically like hold them up in the location and, do some work there. And then I was going to put them on my phone or on like an iPad and then have them flash in between. I got this idea from a professor, John Anderton, in college when I was going through Northern, and
the late great John
Anderton. He comes up in like every episode here because he's touched everyone, across the board with his work that he did with history and human impact on the environment. But the fading effect and the repeat photography was just an idea to like do on the tour. And then it started to be one of those things where I was showing people and they're like, this is cool just to like put online. Yeah. And then it became this idea for a podcast. And so having people like yourself be able to look at the photos and talk about what happened back in the day, starting with present, because that's what people see first and foremost, right? But they know that there's some history there, especially with something like the docks, where it's like, okay, those pylons are just sitting in the water. What is going on with those pylons, right? Or a building that maybe is clearly 100 years old or more, and they're like, okay, well, what's the history behind that? And I think, what we're about to do here kind of brings some of that to life, going back in the day. And then what's in the future? Like there's a new hotel being built behind the Veerling, right? And like what's going on there, or the shoreline and how the shoreline has changed. And now we've got a bike path. And whereas once it was railroads and,
and junk and garbage and junk and even more garbage.
And coal yards, like...
I've often several times have mentioned, if you were to take someone who left Marquette in the 1960s and then and never came back, brought them back and stuck them in the middle of the city, would they even know where they were?
They'd be shocked.
In a very good way, especially as far as the lakeshore goes.
Yeah.
But even if you were to stick them where UP Health System is now, where the hospital is now, that was an old railroad
roundabout, right?
Roundhouse. And
yeah.
that whole area was filled with nothing but train tracks and really crappy buildings.
Totally.
Yeah. And,
just the Commons, the Marquette Commons.
Yeah.
Which
was basically a huge railroad trestle and a street that no longer exists.
Yeah. And now it's this beautiful area for farmers markets and ice skating in the winter and gatherings. And it's like you turn something that was once like what looked like and felt like wasted land into completely usable urban space.
And there's the funny story about Amos Harlow, the guy who founded Marquette. His house was the big yellow one right across from where the Commons is on 4th Street. And he built the house there in the hope that as soon as he built his house, they would build a town square there.
Right.
The railroads had another idea, but 100 years after Amos, or 120 years after Amos Harlow died,
he got his square.
His house is right in front of the town square.
It just took 100 years. Oh, if only could he have lived until 230 years old or whatever it is.
That is possible, isn't it?
I think they're trying to get there,
Okay.
like CRISPR and some other weird genetic stuff that's
Hey,
going
I'm
on.
counting.
Could you talk about that for 30 seconds?
Would you like me to talk about gene editing for 30 seconds?
I like that. I could talk about anything for 30 seconds. Have you been tested on that? Like I just jokingly tested you on it.
I actually have been. And usually I can do it. And what's funny is sometimes I will be introduced to someone and I'll start talking, and I know what they do for a living or what their expertise is, and I'll start talking to them, and then they'll start talking back to, like, answering me after the 30 seconds, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. That's where your limit is.
Yeah,
it exists in that 30-second window.
For the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But then there's things like this. You could probably talk ad nauseum for Front Street, Washington. What are we talked about this prior to the episode. We won't go into your favorite necessarily topics.
Man.
Because that's for the late night folks, let's say. But you know a lot about the docks. You know a lot about the rail yards. You know a lot about downtown area. So I think we can throw some repeat stuff on the screen and see what happens as we look up Front Street.
The 100 South block of Front Street. You know, I will often speak with people. And the one thing that I think everyone is so disappointed is no longer there is that trestle. That was built in 1931. There was actually a smaller trestle before that, but when they built DSS&A dock number 6, the big dock that's in there now, they needed a higher trestle.
Okay.
And so they built that in 1931. And even though they stopped shipping ore out of Lower Harbor in 1971, for 28 years, that was up there. And that almost acted like a welcoming sign.
It totally was.
Yeah, to Marquette. Yeah. And then when the city bought all the Canadian National property and turned all this, can I say crap?
You can say crap.
Okay. And they turned all this crap into bike paths and parks. It's sad that they had to take that one thing down. I mean, I understand why, because it was structurally unsound.
Right.
And the city
they could have shored it up though. And imagine if they would have put, like they did with the trestle over by Holiday Inn, some railings on it maybe, and allowed people to walk across the top of it, would have been unbelievable.
Yeah. In fact, one of my favorite mining journal headlines of all time was from the January of 2000 when they were about to tear the trestle down. Yeah. They had an editorial that said, "Trestle is an eyesore. No one wants it." Oh. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Did they do any like public surveys or anything? I mean, people were talking about it colloquially, but what about just
not that I'm aware of?
Because I bet it would have been really.
If they had asked the public, I could guarantee you 90% of the people said, you better keep that.
Totally.
But it's just one of those things.
It got torn down in what, 2000?
January of 2000.
Yeah. So I remember that. It was really sad to see that go because, like you said, it was this, like, I'm in Marquette. Mm-hmm. Hey.
Yep. I'm married to someone from downstate, and she remembers as a kid they used to. Her family would always drive up to Houghton because her uncle was a teacher at Michigan Tech.
Okay.
And they would always know that they were really close to Houghton when they would go under that sign. There was just an hour and a half left to go.
And you're talking because the bypass wasn't there yet and they had to go through Front Street to Washington.
No,
is that
for some
right?
strange reason.
They just wanted to go through
Marquette. Yeah. Yeah, because the bypass was built in 1963.
Yeah, so before.
Yeah, so this would have been like in the 70s and stuff.
I was trying to follow where you're going with that.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
cool.
Where I was going is that people really love the trestle.
Yeah, that's pretty much the bottom line. Yeah. Cool. That's a fun one. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's one of the newer, quote unquote, newer photos we've done because there's actually cars in that photo. I told Jack, I was like, all right, here are the parameters. I don't want any photos earlier than 100 years.
Okay.
I'm like, I want the oldest stuff you got. Because that's just, for whatever reason, that's the stuff that fascinates me the most. Like all the old wooden buildings or the stuff that doesn't look like Marquette at all anymore, stuff like that. So,
but that's one of the great things about Marquette is that no matter, where you look, you're going to see a sign of what it was like in the past.
Totally.
Even if you're looking at a pile of sandstone, if you know what that pile of sandstone represents, then you're looking back at 177 years of history.
Right. Yeah, and we just had Matt Van Grinsven on too. That sandstone is, millions, hundreds of millions of years old. That was quarried right from like South Marquette, most likely, or another quarry around the area.
Because they had the brownstone quarry in South Marquette. They had the red sandstone quarry up. Heading toward Big Bay, they also had a sandstone quarry in Jacobsville,
they were all
which
over,
is in the Upper Country.
There was one in Alger County, a couple of, there's literally a brownstone restaurant. And and
it's amazing because if you walk down certain streets in New York or certain streets in Chicago and you know where the sandstone came from, you can realize, wow, they shipped sandstone from Marquette to build New York, which is what they did.
What is it? Not the Astor. What's the building there in New York?
No, I think
Astoria.
Astoria.
Waldorf
Astoria is part of it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but they quarried so much sandstone out of South Marquette. Probably 80% of it was sent to other places.
Right.
So
that's crazy, because it was such a beautiful and useful building material.
Well, and you realize why it was a building material too, because after the fire of 1868, Marquette was just basically trashy wood buildings, trashy wood sidewalks downtown. And when everything burned to the ground, one of the rules that they made was that in the downtown Marquette area, you cannot have a building whose ground level floor is made out of wood. It has to be brick or some other stone, and there was sandstone.
A lot of sandstone.
And 140 years later, you can see things like the Harlow Building or any of the churches, all built from sandstone from that area. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. That Richardson Romanesque architectural style.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's wild, the different features. And I like to think that I've done a little bit of research on the architecture. There's sort of four main categories. There's the Richardson Romanesque, the Victorian Italianate, the classical revival, and then the modern industrial now, which is you get the beer garden at the Ore Dock
Yeah.
and all the different like more modern features and stuff.
You get angles. I mean, you get hard angles for
Hard
something
angles.
like that.
Yeah, totally.
But so many of the classic sandstone buildings in Marquette were put together by two architects, John Chubb and D. Fred Charlton. And D. Fred was just an amazing architect.
Totally.
And if you just stand in front of the Marquette County Courthouse and look at what he did with that, it's like, wow.
And then you go inside and you're just like, wow.
Wow. Yeah, even more, especially when you go up that
Double wow.
that marble staircase.
It's unbelievable.
And you just see everything unfolding in front of you. It's like,
It's pretty cool. Sweet. Good stuff. A boat just went by. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Should we hit the next repeat shot? So that's the trestle. And then
the dearly departed long lost.
This one. Okay, so we took this photo during Art on the Rocks.
Okay.
And the tents are underwater now.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All the watercolors are going to run.
That was quick. I like that.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, so clearly, if people haven't seen this photo, that is Matson Lower Harbor Park, right? And people may think that, it's just always been there.
No, it hasn't. In fact, it wasn't until 1926 that there was actually something there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that the only reason Marquette exists is because of water. Think of all of the places in Marquette County, Negaunee, Ishpeming, Champion, Republic, National Mine, Gwinn, all built around iron ore mines. Yep. There's no iron ore anywhere near Marquette. Yep. But what Marquette did have was two natural deep water harbors. Yep. This is Lower Harbor, and this shot was from about 1875 or so. Yeah. So the reason that Marquette exists was to get iron ore from Negaunee to Cleveland or Detroit or Chicago. Right. And that's why you see all of the docks in the harbor. And if you want to go back to the old shot again, the dock basically in the front is one of the first docks that was built in Marquette. It's the Jackson dock. It was actually a merchandise dock. And it served well in two different incarnations because it was burned during the fire of 1868. And then they rebuilt it.
They rebuilt it on the same pylons?
On the same pilings, yeah.
Pilings.
And in the 1920s, the Spear family was the largest importer of coal into Marquette because you needed coal to heat your houses. Right. And they had a coal dock on the other, basically where dock number 6 is right now, where the big dock is.
The big dock, yeah.
And they
you
decided...
can kind of almost see like where that location would have been.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have been in this image, but basically the next biggest dock over, the larger dock.
Which was dock number... that was dock number 5 at the time.
Okay, so they built number 6 on top of the 5 pilings.
No. The 5 pilings are... Okay, there's still some pilings in the water, right? The closest one to...
Do we want to go to the... Can we get the drone shot of like the...
Or are we skipping again?
No, that's okay. We can jump around. We can do whatever we want, Jim.
Oh, cool.
We can put all sorts of photos.
Yeah, go ahead. Put that one up. And then
that way, because that way you can really see from the sky the...
Which one do you guys want?
We're talking about the drone shot of the whole harbor.
The pano?
No.
No, the one where I was pointing out where the dock no longer exists.
Where the yellow line was in the water. And if you just snake through them really quick, I can even just stop you. It's okay if we break the third wall a bit.
Fourth wall.
There it is.
That one right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the original Spear dock, the coal unloading facility would have been where the back end of Dock 6 was.
Yeah.
But they were starting to run out of space. So what the Spear family did was they actually bought a bunch of the shoreline where the Jackson dock had been. They filled it in.
How did they fill it in?
You know, that I'm not quite sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. But 100 years ago, 1926, this all happened.
Yeah.
So they bought that land. They bought the land where the Grace blast furnace was at the time, which is now Cinder Pond Marina.
Yep.
And they filled it in, and that's when they put their big coal yard there.
Yeah.
And for 50 years, ships like in this one pulled right up to it. They just dumped the coal. They had a huge gantry with this.
Can we go to the coal one? Sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
Because we got that shot too.
Oh.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
You know, with this big basically scoop that would take it, and you're actually going to see the gantry as it appears to us magically through history. You know, so they would
there it is.
Yeah, so they would basically take the coal off the ship, put it in big piles. Rail cars would come by, and actually you can see rail cars right next to the ship there.
Sure.
And then they would just haul it off to wherever it needed to go.
Yeah.
So that worked until 1975 when they opened the new coal unloading facility
in South Marquette.
No, in by the LS&I dock at Presque Isle. It's that big yellow tube that snakes
in
down.
the North Harbor.
Yeah, in the North. In Upper Harbor.
I was thinking about the power plant in South Marquette,
which they still they had used.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, when
but
we had
you were
coal
talking
power
about
plants.
Upper Harbor.
Yeah. So then in 1976, they stopped using the coal yard. The Spear family wanted to donate the land to the city. The city actually wanted to call it Spear Park, put it together. But the Spear family said, no, we're giving you the land. Do what you want.
Yeah.
They needed a lot of money, so they had a fundraising committee raise a lot of money. That was headed by Elwood Matson, who was at the time one of the vice presidents of the old First National Bank in Marquette. So when it came time to name it, they just named it the Elwood Matson Lower Harbor Park. And for 30 some years now, it's been like one of the crown jewels of the Marquette Park system.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were just looking at that image of Art on the Rocks right there. And like you figure that land first wasn't there, as shown in this repeat
It was literally a garbage dump.
And then it was garbage. It would have been harbor, right? Like it was old fishing shacks.
Right.
And like that in this photo, it's like there was logs being run.
There were two sawmills.
The sawmills were using
because the Jackson Dock pilings were there, ships couldn't get in, so that was basically just like
float some logs.
Yeah, float some. It was like the garbage dump of Marquette.
Yeah, like literally they were just throwing garbage into the harbor right there.
Well, I shouldn't say literally they were throwing garbage in there.
Okay.
But especially in this shot, you can see just all of the logs.
Yeah.
You'll notice right under the dock, there are fishing shacks that are literally falling apart right into the water.
Yeah, into the water.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you got to figure like in the winter, that's probably heaving like crazy as well because of ice. And
and there were no laws, there were no regulations at all about conservation of lakeshore, or you can put this in the water or you can't put this in the water.
Yeah. Which brings up the whole like into the future that we kind of were talking about too, and like what Marquette is doing. Can you go back to the original the today shot, so the beginning of this repeat? Yeah, like hold it there, just like that in and of itself right there. I think is a perfect sort of like what can happen with good urban planning and turning it into a park. You see the bike path. You can't really see it right now, but the new cultural trail that is being developed along the shoreline at Founders Landing, and just all the things that Marquette is doing in the direction that they're headed with the protecting the shoreline and keeping the shoreline clean rather than like treating it like a garbage dump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest things Marquette ever did was when they decided, okay, everything on the lake side of Lakeshore is public property. You can't, but
lakeside of Lakeshore is public property. So you're saying,
so where Lower Harbor Park is, where Cinder Pond Marina is, where the Coast Guard station is,
where
so where McCarty's Cove is
between Lakeshore and the water.
Lake, that's public property.
Right.
That has full public access that belongs to us. It doesn't belong, unless it was grandfathered in for something, it doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to the community. Yeah. And people always, sometimes maybe rightly, but people are always saying, we don't want to become another Traverse City.
Yeah.
And I think that is the one guarantee that Marquette won't become Traverse City, because you're not going to see a bunch of hotels stuck right on the water unless it's meant to be like with the Founders Landing development.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then all the way out to Presque Isle, for crying out loud. Like all that reclamation of all that brownfield site and what they're doing at the old Cliff Dow. And just that, you know, I'm seeing that take shape in front of my eyes from when in the past, well, the Lombardy poplars were there. That was pretty sweet, and those aren't there anymore. But
no, and they smelled wonderful. But that's life.
Yeah, and that giant willow tree that was there out near the dome. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that was pretty cool too. And anyways, what they're doing besides taking some of those trees down, being able to take that land and make it usable again for public access. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with that boardwalk thing that they're putting out there that they've got blocked off right now.
Well, that whole thing is going to have you know, walking paths,
an
and
entire
stuff around it.
like raised walking area, or some sort of walking path.
Yeah. And
be great.
I mean, plus it served a practical purpose too, because you no longer have to rebuild Lakeshore every year when the waves come in.
Totally.
So,
yeah, cool. Do we have any more repeat shots that we want to throw up there? We've done the coal yard.
I suggest saying throw on instead of throw up? I mean, that's just me.
You may suggest that, and I will take your suggestion. Okay. Yeah, throw on the screen. We don't want to throw up today. Yeah. No, this is fun.
Yeah, this is Dock 6. This is the
big
classic dock that we all love right now.
Yep.
And you can see a couple of sets of pilings next to it. The one right next to it, closer to the viewer, that's the association dock. That's built on the pilings that they put in for Dock 5, which was the last wooden dock. There've been a series of wooden docks in Lake Superior, but because it's Lake Superior, those docks above water would only last 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And they had to rebuild them all the time.
Yeah.
So then in 1931, when they built Dock 6, that was out of steel and concrete. And it's been standing ever since.
Solid too. They've done studies on it.
Yeah.
And they're kind of wondering what they should do with Dock 6. If, you know, it's able to be used. I've heard condos. I've heard boardwalks. I've heard all sorts of stuff.
There have been a lot of plans, and a lot of them were just fanciful plans, because for a long time, the city owns the dock. For a long time, the state owned the lake bed on which it sat.
Okay.
And
that's tricky.
It was very tricky until a couple of years ago, when the state said, okay, we'll give you permission to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
So it's in the process of trying to figure it out.
What do you think is going to happen?
You know, I don't know.
Really?
There are people who want to turn it into like science centers.
Oh, interesting.
Or, you know, a big boardwalk with like an atrium in it and everything.
Yeah. I just saw a laser show on it like a couple days ago.
And those are impressive,
which was pretty cool. I was just driving by going like,
why is it glowing?
Yeah,
all
like
of a sudden?
what is happening on the side of the ore dock right now?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
But if you want to go back to the picture, you know, we were talking about how the pilings for Dock 5, you can see the boats on the end right there.
Yeah.
And then right next to it was the original railroad dock. That was the Iron Mountain dock. That was the first dock that was built for
1855.
for railroad cars. So they have that plaque in Lower Harbor that says first steam railroad. It actually needs to go over where the dock where Phil's
kick it that way. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think we actually have one more dock too. We've got a shot that is before the fire of 1868. Yeah. So
that's
one.
that is such a cool picture. That is the original Jackson dock. That was one of the first big docks that actually stood in Marquette, and that's where they brought a lot of the merchandise in. And when you look at the picture,
that's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like that one picture I was telling you of Jack's that got me into history, because you can look at this picture, nothing looks familiar, but you can see the hill where Front Street is.
Right.
You can see the original Iron Bay Foundry building that eventually became Lakeshore Engineering, that eventually became everything else. And you can kind of get an idea that, wow, this is really going to change, because the dock was built in 1853. 1863, I think this one was built.
Okay.
So Marquette was 1849.
Right.
So this is like 4
Literally.
years, after Marquette was built.
Yeah.
But you can
No
see
time.
what you can see what it has become in the 170 years.
Look at that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always find funny is that all of the people who are walking on the bike path right there on the outside of the lower harbor,
Yeah.
they're walking on the original pilings of the Jackson dock from 1853.
So how do those pilings stay so good in the water?
As horrid as Lake Superior is on wooden structures built on it,
Yeah.
Lake Superior is so cold,
Yeah.
it preserves the wooden pilings
Yeah.
underneath it. And the two walking piers built partially on old pilings. In fact, one of the piers was on the original Cleveland dock, which is from 1863. Okay, the Phil's dock, the fish dock,
Yeah.
pilings from 1855. The Association dock, pilings from dock number 5, which is 1905. This from 1853.
And they're
So-
solid. Yeah.
They're solid.
I have vivid memories of going to visit family in Munising and seeing the pilings in Munising Harbor.
Yep.
And like Munising Bay, and just kind of scratching my head and wondering what was there. Because the top of the dock no longer exists, but the pilings are just sticking out of the water, and just being like, why isn't there anything on top of that?
Because they decided just to, unlike Marquette, where they decided to build stuff on the pilings, they just left the pilings there.
Right,
So,
right, yeah. Yeah, cool. This is really neat. I love this photo too, like I said, because it's well before the Great Fire. So all those buildings would have burned in the Great Fire.
And they did.
Yep.
And the dock burned as well.
None
so
of those, literally none of that exists anymore except for the pilings under the water.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny. As I was saying before, one of the ways that you can tell this is an insanely old picture of Marquette is that there are still trees there.
Right.
They literally, I'm using the word literally too much.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
we can do whatever we want here, Jim, except for swear. We don't want to swear too hard.
Oh man. Okay.
We'll get there.
But
maybe.
they spent the first 30 years of Marquette basically cutting every tree down so they could build the city.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all that original virgin timber was gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we were trying to, like you were telling me it was to build the city. I was thinking about how they also did that. They cut a ton of the forest here in order to create charcoal for the
Right.
kilns to make charcoal for the blast furnaces.
right.
that-
When you're driving from Marquette to Munising, you drive through Anoda Township.
Yep.
And that whole part of land was taken or bought by a guy named Charles Schaefer, who was the charcoal king of Marquette.
Right.
Okay. He had a daughter named Anoda, which is why it's an Anoda Township.
Interesting.
And he literally, see, I'm using that word again.
That's cool.
He cut down every tree that he could find in that township
Yeah.
to make charcoal.
And that's
For the kilns.
why I kind of brought it up, because
Right.
I know that history. I've got a centennial book on Elger County that
Okay,
tells
yep.
that history. And there's photos in there of like a wasteland because they basically just cut down every single tree. And I mean, I think I'm going to be stretching my history and my knowledge here, but the smelting of the iron ore and using of the furnaces to make pig iron went away because the charcoal was less, the heat in the charcoal was lower than what you could get out of coal. And because they had cut down all the trees, they didn't actually have much fuel left to produce the charcoal to burn in the furnaces. And so that's why we transitioned in this area from like creating pig iron and like smelting processes to moving the raw materials south to the what is now like, you know, the steel center and
The Rust Belt. Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Yeah. Is that accurate, do you think?
It's very accurate, and you might add into the fact that it was also economically cheaper just to send pellets,
Right.
as opposed to going through all of the intermediate processes
Right.
trying to make the pig iron.
Yeah.
You know, if you just had a bunch of pellets, once the pocket docks were invented, you know, instead of taking a week to have, you know, workers load a ship,
Yeah.
it took like hours.
Right.
You can get more ships in and out.
Totally.
And,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, how much time we at? What are we looking? We're done with the repeat stuff.
We just got that pano.
Oh, one more.
Yeah,
there's the good one.
This is one of my favorite
dessert
pictures
ever. We're gonna have dessert here.
Yeah, in fact, as I was
cool
telling you before, I made a whole video about the picture that we're about to see.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, let me congratulate you on getting that drone shot.
Appreciate that. Shout out Hayden Miles.
Yes, and that is such a perfect representation 121 years after the original picture was taken.
Yeah.
That when you overlay it, which I'm assuming you're going to do now,
Yep.
it just makes you go, wow.
Yeah, thank you.
And this was a shot taken atop of the Summit House Hotel in 1905. And this is what Marquette looked like. I had mentioned the Spear family.
Such a good photo.
Yeah, mentioned the Spear family in their coal yard.
Yeah.
You'll notice the big gantry, about a third of the way from the left.
Yeah.
Those gantries were where the coal ships came in. In fact, if you look really closely behind the gantry, you'll see a ship there, a coal ship there.
Let me just paraphrase a bit, though. Then that means that was on the south side of Dock 6.
No, that is where Dock 6 is now.
Oh.
The big dock over there, that was Dock 5.
Oh, okay. But still south of where the coal yard was, where we are, like Matson's Lower Harbor Park is
yes,
now.
Yes.
Well
yes,
south of that.
yes,
So they moved their coal yard,
Yes, they did.
essentially.
Yes, they did. So if you looking from the right, the big long dock out there, that was dock number 1. That was the DSSNA's first dock.
Yep.
It was actually the longest dock ever constructed in Marquette. It was 2,300 feet long.
That's crazy.
In those days, they could get 4 ships on either side of the dock for a total.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And that
and the buoy is out in the water at the end.
It is.
I think I
yes.
heard you say that.
Yes.
before.
And some of the pilings for that dock are being used for the big cement walking pier with the sails on the end.
Right.
Okay. So then the dock right next to it, that at the time was the Spear Merchandise Dock. That was actually built in 1863 as the Cleveland Dock, but the Spear family bought it out. That was the only dock that survived the fire of 1868.
Yeah, I heard they were like splashing water in front of it and like on the sides of it to keep it wet so that it wouldn't burn.
If it wasn't for that, I mean, literally, I'm doing it again. For the first 4 years after the fire, that dock operated 24 hours a day, 12 hours to ship ore out, 12 hours to ship stuff in to rebuild the city.
Wow.
And those pilings are on the shorter walking pier, the one with all the wildflowers on it.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's a space right there. You can see a passenger ship unloading.
Yeah.
You can see the coal ship unloading at the dock there. And then that big long dock was DSSNA dock number 5.
Okay. And that was a pocket dock too?
That
I
was
don't
a
see
pocket
any
dock.
chutes on there.
No, it was a pocket dock.
Okay.
It was the last wooden one that was built.
Okay.
It was built about a year actually before this picture was taken. So it was Marquette's brand new big dock. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So there you go. And like you'll be able to see now where that dock number 1 was built
because you can see right behind the whole thing.
Look at that.
That is a perfect. that shows it perfectly.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then what is the wooden like pretty much like halfway up or just barely halfway up to the right side of the image?
Right.
Like running kind of perpendicular to dock number 1. What would that have been? Do you have any idea there?
Yes, that was actually in a fit of creativity. That was called the logging dock. That was actually an offshoot of dock number 1.
Okay.
You'll notice it had rail cars coming in from 2 different directions.
Yeah.
From Marquette and also from Munising.
Yeah.
And basically what they did was they also had ships pull up to that dock and shove wood over the side.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And
cool.
that kind of acted as a barrier to keep the wood there.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've always kind of wondered that because it's like it's not out into the water. It's like adjacent. It's like parallel to the shoreline.
And that was the whole thing. In order to keep wood or whatever was in there from heading out into the lake.
Yeah, okay. Kind of like in that other image where the wood was sort of in the very sort of corner of the lower harbor there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then you see all the beautiful houses on Ridge Street.
Yes, in fact, you also see the Howard Froebel School.
Oh, yeah,
which are
on the
those
left there,
those towers up on the left.
Yeah.
Howard Froebel was such an interesting school. I was speaking of D. Fred Charlton, the architect. He designed most of the high schools in the UP at this time, and Howard Froebel was one of them.
Okay.
After the big Marquette High School on that site had burned down, they built the Howard High School, which was named after Howard Longyear, John Longyear's son, who had just died.
Yep.
And then the Froebel Elementary School, which is named after Friedrich Froebel, who was the German dude who invented kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
But basically those
Kindergarten.
kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those towers were basically big open towers, and they would capture the wind, and that's how they would cool the school.
Oh, neat.
Problem is, if you'll notice, it's 500 feet away from Lake Superior, which is the world's largest natural air conditioner.
Yeah.
So imagine what it was like in the school in the winter.
Yeah.
So
They couldn't shut them.
they could, but they were.
It was still cold.
It was very,
Some drafts
very
happening.
drafty. Yeah. And then there was also the story. At the back of the school, they had huge metal slides for fire escapes, and they would have to have fire drills every once in a while, and they would always announce when the fire drills were coming up.
Yeah.
And there would invariably be that one snotty little boy who, right before the fire drill, would go out and relieve himself on the slide.
Oh my God. That's so gross.
That's what kids were
Where do
like
you
in
get
the
that
20s.
story
and 30s.
from? Like, where does that come from? How do you...
That story actually came to me about 20 years ago from a very elderly man who was at one time a snotty kid.
Okay. Was he the child? Is this what we're getting at?
I am neither going to confirm, to use your words, I'm neither going to confirm nor deny that he might have been the individual who may have relieved himself on the slide before the fire drill.
Oh, man, that's so good.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, no one will ever know.
I know.
No. Awesome. Well, this has been a blast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really appreciate you coming in. Is there anyone or anything or any place you'd like to give a shout out to as we sort of wrap up here? Any plug you want to do?
No. Basically, you had mentioned the History Center before. If people are interested in history, go to the History Center.
Yeah.
Walk through the main gallery, through the special exhibits, see what's there. Go to programs, support the History Center. It can.
Do you have a walking tour coming up?
Well, I might on August 26th, and it might be called Happy Hour 2. It might be called even more outrageous bar stories you haven't heard before.
Awesome. What time and how do people find it? Where is it? What's
August 26th, 6:30. Meet outside the History Center.
Okay.
$5 suggested donation. It is almost entirely, once again, within the Marquette Social District. So if you want to stop at the Ordoc or at Remy's and get something beforehand,
Sure.
I'm not going to care.
Fantastic. Excellent, Jim. Well, thank you again for coming in.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back. We've actually said this pretty much every guest. There's so many stories to tell. And it's like we can't get through everything because we're trying to keep these to an hour. But
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And like I had mentioned to you before, give me 6 or 7 hours. I'll be fine.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Awesome. Fantastic. Got through all the images and stuff too.
I know, which is good.
That was great.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah. It's